Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the elders of Great Millstone who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations be unto the Akim, out here pushing his gospel and truth and his sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, pop on your houses. This is Brother Quanah Roth coming back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And here we are, man. Esau is making a heavy and serious move, right? Over there in the UK, right? As you see right here on the People's Voice, it says King Charles announces British government is rolling out Bill Gates' digital ID, right? They're making their move, man, right? It says King Charles has announced the British government is moving ahead with the rollout of Bill Gates' digital ID and introducing digital ID cards in line with Agenda 2030, right? So it starts off with you having, a hard copy of your ID, right, in your wallet, right? You carry it with you to, now, right, it's you having, a digital ID, on your phone or, tablet, so on and so forth, right? All those different things. And eventually, right, it's going to be your ID, right, your identification, right, is going to be attached to, an RFID microchip that's ultimately going to be put right into your body, right, your hand, right, your forehead, right. It's going to have all your information, right. This is where things are going, right. The fulfillment of Revelations 13 and verse 16 on down, right, which is the mandatory implementation of the RFID microchip, man. Which is the MO to the TB, right? This is the direction, where these, requirements, right? They're introducing digital, IDs or, digital wallets or, biometric scans and so on and so forth. All this is leading to the MO to the TB, right? It says the monarch laid out the Labour government's plan amid a backdrop of political chaos, while Prime Minister Keir Starmer attempts to hold on to his position following disastrous local election results across the country. Here's the point. During the state opening of Parliament speech on May 13th, the monarch told Parliament the ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services, right? Ultimately stating that it's going to, make it more convenient, right? Make it simpler, right? Esau plays on convenience. Esau plays, little, word games, right? To ultimately tug at the, the hearts and minds, right, of the everyday people, right? Which these people out here, they're simple, man. This is a microwave society, right? Everybody wants things to be easier, faster, right? And this is how he's ultimately playing it, right? Telling you these things are ultimately going to be, better. When in reality, all it's doing is allowing him to, squeeze, even tighter, right? Get a better grip on all you people, right? And keep that pressure on, right? Because this is all coming with, mass surveillance, right? Mass control, right? As we see over there in China, right? Which, Klaus Schwab, before he ultimately stepped down, from the WEF, right, the World Economic Forum, right, he basically stated that China, right, was, the example for the rest of the world to follow. And now we're seeing, happen, right? China's got a social credit score, right? China's got, everything over there is digital, right? And we've seen other countries kind of following suit, right? Nigeria got rid of if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Nigeria, but Nigeria got rid of cash all the way around, right? They're 100% digital. So look, right? They're 100% digital, as well as I think it might have been Kenya as well. Multiple countries are becoming fully automated, right? Fully digital. Getting rid of cash. Which again, all roads lead to the MO to the TB, which is the RFID microchip. Right? And I want to grab this next article. Right? Because it's not just over in the UK. Right? Let's get past this ad. Right? People's Voice again. It says EU declares non-compliant citizens who reject Bill Gates' digital ID will be banned from the internet. Right? So it's getting to the point where if you ultimately don't comply or you don't, receive the digital ID, you're ultimately going to be banned from the internet. This is all according to prophecy, right? Which we're going to grab it, but I'm going to read a little bit, right? It says the European Union is turning the internet into a permission-based system where ordinary citizens must surrender their digital identity to participate in modern society. That right there is according to the scriptures, man. Right? Matter of fact, let's grab it. Right, since we're, this is Revelations 13 and verse 16. KJV, it says, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a MARK in their right hand or in their foreheads. Right, and we understand that word MARK, right, in the Greek is charagma, right, which goes to an imprinted, something that's imprinted, right, something that's sculpted, graven work, using a palisade, right, which is ultimately a sharp point, right, to ultimately engrave or to inject. And that's going to be what that needle, right, which ultimately slides, that device within you, man. And they're already doing this. They've been doing this for, over a decade now. Out in the open, they've been, ultimately, putting these C-hips in people for over a decade, right? Since 2014, the C-hipping parties in Sweden, 2015, it moved over here to America, companies, ultimately offering it to their employees, and now they're starting to make the move on it, right? Because at first it was voluntary, right? And it's still to this day, right, to a certain degree, it is voluntary, right? But it's going to move to where, as we're seeing, right, they're starting to say, if you don't want to comply with this digital ID, you're not going to be able to participate in modern society. Right? Which is what they stated, a while ago. Right? I think it was at the beginning of this year that they said by the end of Parliament, right, you're going to have a digital ID. And Mexico said the same thing. Right? And now we're seeing it play out. Right? And it doesn't matter who you are. Right? Everyone is going to have that digital ID in order to participate. Right? As it says right here, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, right, to receive an MARK in the right hand or in the forehead. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're poor. It doesn't matter if you're rich, right, in jail or free. It don't matter. That's the requirement, right, for everyone to take it. And this is exactly what we're seeing, right? It says what? Verse 17, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the MARK, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Meaning if you're not complying, you're going to be excommunicated. This is what we're seeing. Right? It says the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen is fast-tracking plans that will require every social media user to provide government-approved digital ID just to log in. What is sold as child protection will soon make verified digital identity the price for entry into online life, meaning social media, right? In order for you to keep up, with the Joneses, like a lot of these people do, right? You gotta have the digital ID, and you best believe, right? When it comes to the people's social media, when it comes to people like and Esau slick, right? He made everybody reliant on social media, on these digital, these devices, right? Your phone, laptop, tablet, so on and so forth, right? Game consoles, right? And now he's ultimately saying, hey, well, in order for you to continue to use it, you got to have the digital ID. And you best believe most of these people are going to do it, man. You best believe these people are going to do it, right? And it's, again, having a digital ID, that's not the MO to the TB, but nonetheless, right, it's a step in that direction. It says, the place where ordinary people work, socialize, shop, debate, and organize. Von der Leyen announced this week that the EU is actively pursuing a bloc-wide social media ban for minors. I believe we must consider a social media delay, she said in Copenhagen. Depending on the results, we could come up with a legal proposal this summer, right? She praises Australia's under-16 ban and pushed Europe to follow. Childhood and early adolescence are formative years, and I believe we should give our children more time to become resilient in this vulnerable phase. And again, it's all about, deception, right? 2 Corinthians 2:11, right? We're not ignorant of Satan's devices, man. We understand this damn devil, right? He's gonna play it, as something that is beneficial, right? Something that is helpful, right? He gonna make it seem like this is something that is, something that's ultimately gonna move society in the right direction. But we understand it's a lie, right? Let's go to this real quick. In Psalms 10 and verse 7, just hitting the point in the KJV. It says, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Again, speaking about the wicked, right? In the NLT, their mouths are full of cursing, lies, and threats. Trouble and evil are on the tips of their tongues. That's right, man. Esau is a liar. He's always causing problems, right? He's the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. So you can't believe this devil, right? He says it's for one thing, when in reality, right, he's always got alternative motive, man. We've seen that with the C-19, right? Kill Gates even stated prior to, the C-19 being, being spread, that he stated that, if they do a good job with the jabs and the vaccines and whatnot, that they can reduce the population by 10 to 15%. That's something that he stated. That's something that he will never be able to run away from. But nonetheless, right? After that statement, right, however long, it doesn't matter. Now we're seeing them really start to, push, right, taking, a vaccine. First with the C-19, even prior to that, right? When, babies are born, in order for you to go to, certain schools, or in order for you to be able to participate in certain things, you got to have, those jabs, it's all part of his plan. It's all part of his agenda, man, and we're seeing it play out, right? This is why we tell you, don't trust this devil, man, even though he's saying, oh, it's beneficial, he might even make it, actually, be beneficial for a moment, right? To ban kids getting on, social media, right? That's, that's good. They don't need to be on social media, around that age anyways, right? But we understand that he's making it seem as if he's doing good, but in reality, we understand that he's gnawing at the bit, right? Taking your freedoms away, taking your just that, right? Your freedoms away, man, right? And surveying the people a hell of a lot more, right? I seen an article on Newsbreak, right, talking about Palantir right here in America, right? Palantir has now, ultimate access to, to over 20 million, citizens' information and data, Palantir. So they're gathering information. They're gathering, they're taking away your freedoms, right? And controlling you people. Right now they're saying, hey, you're not going to be able to get on, you're not going to be able to get on social media. Right? That's control. Right? They're telling you this is what you have to do in order to, get on social media. Right? That's control. Right? Again, but they're passing it off as, caring about the children's mind and growth, and which is bullshit, man. Straight up fucking bullshit. Right? They're liars. You can't trust these devils, man. Not at all. Right? It's all about control. Right? This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 4, right? It says, who opposeth, and again, this is going into the wicked. Right? Matter of fact, we'll read verse 2. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Right? Which he's being revealed, right? Esau Edom, right? The self-proclaimed so-called white man is being revealed at all-time high. Right? We understand that, with the Epstein files and all these different, government officials, right, throughout the world in these different governments, they're all being revealed. Right, of all the wickedness that they've been doing behind scenes. It's all coming to the forefront. And this is why we're seeing Esau speed things up, right? Revelations 12 and 12, because he knows he hath but a short time. So Esau's trying to stay in power. He's trying to ultimately, set himself up as the Most High. Because if he does, well, guess what? That will solidify his position forever. But see, Yahweh Shemel Shah has a whole nother agenda. What does the scripture say, right? The deceived and the deceiver are his, right? The Lord's got this devil in a trick bag, Verse 4, it says, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, right? And he wants to be able to have that kind of level of control, right, over the masses, right? Esau reads these scriptures, such as Sirach, the 18th chapter, where it says the Lord governeth the world with the palm of his hand. Esau wants to be able to do that on the left-hand side through his technology. And we're seeing him, set up the infrastructure. We're seeing him start to, gnaw at the bit and start to make these things, mandatory. Hey, that's Habakkuk 2 and 3, where the vision is yet for an appointed time. At the end it shall speak, and it's speaking loud and clear. It says France aims to block under 15s from September, with Spain, Germany, Ireland, Denmark, Greece, Austria, and Netherlands also advancing similar rules. Britain is moving in the same direction, right? We just saw that, right? Critics point out the obvious flaw in the child safety framing. Platforms cannot verify age without verifying identity for all users. To protect minors, authorities will effectively force adults to upload official documents. Right, it says force. Look at that. Force adults to upload official documents to or connect through government-linked digital ID systems before they can post, comment, browse, or message. So they're just taking away all your freedom to be able to do so. Right? It says the EU has already developed an age verification app built on the controversial digital COVID certificate infrastructure. The same system many warned would pave the way for broader digital control. Brussels is promoting it aggressively despite privacy risks and technical problems. This will be enforced through the Digital Service Act, right, which threatens tech companies with fines of up to 6% of global revenue. Damn! The outcome is clear. Anonymous participation in digital society ends. Refuse to submit your papers and you risk being locked out of the platforms that now shape public discourse, economic opportunity, and social connection. So they don't care, right? That's heavy right there, man. Refuse to submit, right, your papers, right, and you risk being locked out of the platforms that now shape public discourse, economic opportunity, and social connection. That right there is Revelations 13, verse 17. Right? That you are not going to be able to buy and sell if you don't ultimately have the MO to the TB. right? As of right now, it's just a digital ID. But see, this again, this is all in gradualism, right? Starting with the elder apostles of Great Millstone who said it first, on down, right? We've been telling y'all Esau works in gradualism, right? He gnaws at the bit. He doesn't just take a big old bite. He gnaws at the bit little by little by little by little by little. And we're seeing it happen. This is prophecy, man. Call law Yahweh Shemel Shah, man. Come on, man. You can go and read the rest of, it's not much, Matter of fact, we'll read it. It says, from protection to permission, right? It says, while represented as a shield for children, the policy normalizes a future where state decides who may participate in online society. Safety becomes a justification for mass digital identification and expanded surveillance. Several countries, including Poland and Estonia, are resisting full mandates over concerns about access to information and sovereignty, yet the Commission shows no signs of backing down. If enacted, this marks one of the most sweeping interventions into daily life in democratic Europe. To stay informed, to engage in debate, to run a business, or simply to connect with others in the digital age, Europeans will first need to present their digital ID to authorities. Right? This message is becoming unmistakable. Submit to the system or step out of society. That's it. See, this is where things are going, and we've been telling y'all, man. Right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shah, we've been telling y'all. This is where things are heading. Revelations 13, verse 16 on down, man. Matter of fact, we'll read it again and we'll close out on that. Right? This is Revelations chapter 13, verses 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a MERK in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man may buy or sell save he that had the MERK or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, right? 666. And every time Esau ultimately goes and does something, man, you could best believe there's going to be a 6 in there, or numbers that are being thrown out that equal 6, That's how this devil does it, man. These different signs and, numbers and whatnot, But nonetheless, the point being made, right? We are in the time of this precept, right? These precepts right here, right? This prophecy, right, being fulfilled, man, right? And we're gonna say it time and time again. Do not take the RFID microchip, man. Right? When it comes time for Esau to force that, do not take the RFID microchip, otherwise you will be destroyed. Revelation 16, Revelation 14. So with that, Lord wills, edifying, Lord will, straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rachak, Wadash, the elder apostles, the bishops, the elders of Great Millstone. Next time I say Shalom.